All right, welcome into Ethan Skolnick starting 9 here, not at 9. Decided to go during the middle of the day today. Thanks for joining us. Be back at 9 tomorrow morning. We are sponsored, as always, by our friends over at Prize Picks. Here's the shirt. That's the code. That's where you play daily fantasy. So we will match, well, they will match your bonus, basically. Deposit $20, they'll match 20. Deposit 100, they'll match 100. And then you can play whatever you want. Play the power play, the flex play, play different sports. NBA, of course, tonight. NFL coming back this week. Some of the college football bowl games, if they still exist. And also the NHL is back in session. So you can pair players from different sports, different teams. It is the best fantasy platform, and it is our official fantasy platform now. This is the one that we're going with from now on because our people have the most success with it. So go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5. And also, just this week, it's got to be before the end of the year, if you sign up and use the code 5, DM to 5 Reasons Sports a copy of your deposit. Just show it to us, and we're going to put you in the running for a T-shirt, and we're going to give away a few of them. So go to prizepicks.com, use the code 5. All right, this is a Miami Dolphins day here. The Heat play tonight at home against Washington. Brady Hawk will be there. We'll have full coverage on 5 on the floor, and of course, before floor an hour before the game. Post up 5R as soon as the game ends. But we're going to talk Dolphins today because, I mean, really, they deserve it. They've won 7 straight games. They're now 8-7. They're actually in the 7th seed in the AFC, which puts them in the playoffs. And they've got 2 games left against 2, I guess you would call nemesises. I don't know if Ryan Tannehill's a nemesis per se, but we know him well, obviously, with the Titans. He has not played particularly well since he's lost his MVP running back. And then you get the Messiah, Mac Jones, in the finale playing against New England. So what is going on today? There's praise everywhere for this incredible streak, right? No team has ever lost 7 straight and then won 7 straight, right? Everybody everywhere is just, they're gushing over the Dolphins. How did they do this? How did they pull themselves together? What an accomplishment by Brian Flores. Who's the quarterback who's been initiating all of this? Okay, once he came back, they started winning. Once the trade rumors went away, they started winning. Obviously, that guy deserves credit, right? A rookie wide receiver, pretty much the only guy you can count on the entire offense besides the quarterback. The guy's going to set a record for catches. Praise everywhere, right? He's the front runner for Rookie of the Year. The defense, 8 sacks yesterday, 8, 9, I'm not sure what it was. Being led by guys that nobody in the national media has ever heard of, like, Zach Sealer and Emmanuel Ogbah. And the rookie Jalen Phillips, right? Tremendous job. No, that's not what we're hearing. That's not what we're hearing. Manny, give me the tweet. Give me the first one that I sent you. Give me the tweet. Send it in. Unless you've disappeared. Our producer, Manny Chang. Well, anyway, I'll give it to you. There you go. There, he's got it. Here we go. This comes from PFF. Everybody at PFF does not have a last name. They only have first names. So this comes in from PFF Seth. I'm sorry. That's actually my brother's name, so I like that name quite a bit. And here we go. Happy 45th to my little brother. He's actually in Jamaica right now. Let's go through it. Tyrod Taylor, Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco. Why is Lamar Jackson there? Lamar Jackson, Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Cam Newton, he was in a Super Bowl. He won an MVP. PJ Walker, Mike Lennon. I mean, he's been paid a lot of money. Zach Wilson, first-round pick. Ian Book. Okay, he was off the street. The quarterbacks during the Dolphins' 7-game win streak. Thumbs up. Boy, that's a sarcastic little tweet. Now, it's got a lot of likes, so obviously there are people out there who agree with it, but the Dolphin fans jumped on it, and our persecution complex is correctly back because that tweet is effing ridiculous. You can pull it, Manny. It's ridiculous. And this is what the national media does, okay? I don't know if you count him as national media, but, I mean, he's in the ballpark. They discredit. Anything to do with Miami, they discredit. Right? Eric Spoelstra's not a great coach. LeBron James led him to those championships, right? Pat Riley's not a great executive, according to the guy at SiriusXM NBA, right? Because anybody could recruit players down to Miami. Yeah, they cheated to win all those championships, right? I mean, they never mentioned the Marlins and the Panthers because none of those things have actually applied to them. But you get the point. Whenever anything good happens for Miami, it doesn't count, right? It doesn't count. Like, okay, beating backup quarterbacks doesn't count unless you're beating the backup quarterback of the Dolphins, right? Jacoby Brissett out there, like, throwing the ball to, like, Jupiter. Wellington, that doesn't count. The fact that the Dolphins did not have their starting quarterback for 4 games, most of 4 games, it doesn't matter to the national media, right? It's only who the Dolphins are beating now, okay? Because every team, when they play backup quarterbacks, wins. Every one of them. All of them, right? And any team could have beaten the Saints last night. I mean, Tom Brady couldn't score a point against that same team with a few different players, but still, there were some of them there. I saw Marshawn Lattimore on the field, right? I mean, he was hog-tying Jalen Waddle. So what do we make of this, right? Are we just going to say that this Dolphins 7-game streak is completely meaningless because they haven't played against quarterbacks who are currently in their prime? Now, here's a different tweet. Thank you, Manny. Robert Griffin III. I don't agree with him about a whole bunch of things, but, I mean, this tweet, I agree with most of this. 2 of the Dolphins have won 7 straight. It don't matter who the teams were. 7 in a row after losing 7 straight is an incredible display of perseverance. Brian Flores for Coach of the Year. Okay, he could have stopped before that because I'll just say this, okay? Flores has done a terrific job keeping them afloat. But also, it's the same thing, and everybody knows I'm the biggest Eric Spoelstra stan out there, but it's the same thing as the 16-17 Heat season, which is what I've been talking about here a lot, which is that Spo got a ton of credit for 30-11, but no blame for the 11-30 that preceded it. We need to be fair, okay? It took Eric too long to figure out what to do with that team that year. I mean, they finished about what they were. It was a 500 team. I mean, Deion Waiters, Goran Dragic, James Johnson, Hassan Whiteside. It was a 500 team. Okay? Maybe slightly better if they got off to a better start. But that's what it was. And they might have been a little bit better if Deion doesn't get hurt in the last week of the season because that year, actually, Deion played well. So I can't, if I said that about Spoelstra at the time, I can't now, sort of just put aside the fact that Brian Flores pretty much cost them the Jacksonville game. I mean, the decisions at the end of that game, and there were a couple yesterday that, ooh. I mean, he doesn't coach well to expectations. I think we've seen that. I feel like he's more comfortable with less pressure on him, and his teams are also. And also, I can't absolve him of any of the blame for the way the Watson situation was handled, because again, Tua hasn't lost since the trade deadline, right? Or the fact that Flores held Tua out of the Colts game, which is pretty clear now that Tua could have played, and maybe you win that one, right? So, I'm not going to say right now that Brian Flores is Coach of the Year. I will say he's done a very good job pulling them together. Here, this is from our friend Will Manso, okay, who is not a Dolphin fan, by the way. If you know Will, he lives and breathes and dies with the New York Giants. And I grew up a Giant fan in New York. I grew up a fan of both teams. I apologize for that. And so I'm familiar with the Giants' experience. Now, I haven't rooted for them in years and years and years and years. And, of course, they've won a couple of Super Bowls against Brady since. But I kind of rooted for those 90s teams. That's when I was, I was closer to a child. And I was rooting for Lawrence Taylor and those kind of guys. But here we go. People telling me the Dolphins have only beaten bad teams during their winning streak. I mean, what the hell? Or is that the Washington football team? I'm not sure. They've won 7 games in a row. I'm a Giants fan. Giants have had 7 wins in an entire season once in the last 8 years. This winning bleep ain't easy. I mean, that's a fair assessment, right? Here's the other point I want to make about this, okay? We conveniently forget what happens during seasons once we get further away from them. Sorry, what the heck? Okay, it could be that. We forget. So the 2008 Miami Dolphins season, which I covered, I covered every road game that year, was a masterpiece by Chad Pennington. Okay, because basically he maximized that team. I mean, the Wildcat 1-3 and then ending up 11-5 after the Wildcat. A lot of that was Tony Sparano did a good job. Joey Porter had a great season after not having a great one the year before. They won without Jason Taylor. Jason wasn't there that year. Guys like Devon Best played really well. I mean, they maximized that team, okay? And Chad was a deserving MVP candidate and finished second in the MVP voting. However, all right, people are forgetting that they didn't beat anybody the whole second half of the season, okay? I remember writing a story. I was at the Sun Sentinel at the time, and you went through the quarterbacks that they beat during that stretch, and it was like, again, a bunch of second and third stringers. I think they beat one first-string quarterback, and he was bad. I can't remember exactly who it was. They didn't beat anybody to get to 11-5, all right? In terms of the quarterbacks, which if you want to judge it based on the quarterbacks, is fine. I mean, it's 50% of the game, in my view, is who your quarterback is. So, okay, they beat anybody. But they were 11-5. And yes, they got exposed in the first round of the playoffs. As I think everybody predicted, they played a much tougher, more talented Baltimore team, and they couldn't move the ball. All right? Like, again, that not a huge surprise. All right? So, I mean, Dolphin fans, if you want to, I mean, there are some Dolphin fans who are shifting the goalposts who are discrediting the streak themselves and saying, well, they'll get exposed in the playoffs. Yes, probably. Okay? But let's talk about the streak. Like, I'm not talking about the playoffs. Like, this is not... The referendum on this streak is not what they do in the postseason, because nobody was expecting them to get to the postseason when they were 1-7. The referendum on the streak is, did they get themselves off the mat? Have they maximized what they have? And have they beaten who they're supposed to beat? Because most of these teams, when they went into these games, thought that the Dolphins were a team that they could beat, right? And are we not counting the other team's wins against Jacoby Brissett? Those not count. We're just wiping those off the board. We got one more tweet I want to get to before I bring Alfredo on. Our friend Kai Chisholm, who I can't usually recognize because every time he puts on the helmet, I get knocked off the stream. You got that one, Manny? This was the last one I sent you. Because, I mean, Kai sort of went through the numbers on this, and the Messiah, Mac Jones, he's not going to be discredited for anything that he's done this year because he is the great white hope up in New England, right? Okay. I don't know if we have the tweet, Manny, but maybe I might have sent you that. But Kai basically went through the numbers, and when he went through the numbers, he showed who New England has played. It's the same damn schedule as the Dolphins. They've also caught some backup quarterbacks. Other teams catch backup quarterbacks. Do you know why? Because quarterbacks get hurt, right? That's why. Here it is. Let's see if we got it. Okay. Crazy with this, who have the Dolphins beat? When Cincinnati lost to the Jets, Buffalo also lost to the Jags, the Chargers got blown out by the Texans, the Cardinals got embarrassed by the Lions, Tampa lost to WFT, or is that what the hell? I'm not sure, and 0 points against the Saints. New England has 6 of their 9 wins against below 500 teams. Do those wins count? Do those losses count? Or no? We've just decided in the national media, right? There's a certain segment, it's not all of them, but I've heard more of this than just PFF Seth, that the Dolphin streak doesn't count because Tua is not throwing the ball very far, is that it, right? And because they're not facing good quarterbacks. Are we allowed to criticize this team, okay? Go over some of its issues, like the offensive line still stinks, okay? They still really don't have a running game. All right. Defensively, I don't have a lot to complain about. I really don't. I mean, we were talking about some of the guys that they lost or got rid of, like Van Noy and all that. Look, the finished product this year is good. Like, so I mean, yeah, could they have gotten off to a better start? I mean, my biggest criticism of Brian Flores on defense is he didn't letting them play the defense they were playing last year until like all hope was lost, and now it's not lost anymore. I'm glad to see that he played aggressively last night still, because the only chance that this team has is to go balls out on defense. That is what they do, like 0 blitzes and all that. Like, I don't want them playing conservatively. You give up a big play, okay. I'd rather that. Like, okay, Byron Jones gave up 1 last night. Okay, I mean, and that was it. And yes, the Dolphins exposed the Ravens. The Ravens have been going downhill since, Aaron. That's correct. So now people are saying, well, that wasn't a good win. I mean, Lamar played, didn't he? So that was not a good win now because the Ravens haven't been very good since? Or did the Dolphins find some things in that game? I was going to say you can't have it both ways, but in the eyes of the national media, when it comes to Miami sports, they always do. So yeah, this whole thing about indignation, it's kind of a 5 Reasons brand, but it's also true. It's also true. All right, we're going to bring on Alfredo here in a second. Before we do, I want to tell you about another sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I got it here. I'm starting today. Intense Nutrition. But I can't do this for some reason. All right, they're in Coral Springs. This is the place that you want to go to get the best products. If you're trying to get in shape, You're doing the pre-workout, the post-workout. You need protein. I'll say this, though. Everything in the store, other than protein, if you mention 5 reasons, is 20% off. Everything. And here's the difference between this and the 3-letter chain. They'll actually work with you. You know that these corporate entities, when they have stores all over the place, they're pushing something, right? It's like why I don't have a stockbroker anymore, because Morgan Stanley would be telling him what stock I should buy because they had an interest in it. That's not what you want. You want somebody who's going to work with you directly, who's going to understand what you want for your body. You want to lose weight, you want to put on weight, whatever it is you want to do. We know, obviously, that people are making New Year's resolutions. I think the best one is to be nice to people, but it could also be to get in shape. And so if it is, you're going to go to Intense Nutrition. You're going to check out all the products that they have. You're going to mention 5 reasons. You're going to get 20% off, okay? And also, you can follow Intense Nutrition on Facebook or Instagram, and you can call them at 954-775-0257. Tell them that we sent you. Get yourself 20% off against Intense Nutrition on Facebook and Instagram. And on Twitter, they're IN_nutrition FL. You see me tag them all the time. I'll tell you about one more sponsor later on, but right now we're going to bring on the host of 3 Yards Per Carry. Just recorded another episode, and he's known as the godfather of our Dolphins group. He's always wearing that old hat. That's like going to be an NFT hat. Alfredo Arteaga, you can follow him at Alf_Arteaga. So let's just go over this, all right? Which wins for the Dolphins don't count? Which ones?
I think.
What do we just wipe it off the board?
I think all of them, and the one that they have to reverse and forfeit, I think, wasn't it Heather Dinich from ESPN that asked politely for the University of Miami to forfeit that game against against Duke? Remember that? Do you remember when that happened? Are you hearing me?
I'm having trouble, Alfred. I'm having trouble hearing you, which might be on my end. But pop in, pop out, and we're gonna try this one more time because I'm just having a little bit of a challenge getting it. It might be on my connection. So we'll bring Alfredo on here in a second, and I'll try to come up with another witty question for him. But I'm going through kind of the teams that are above the Dolphins right now. I don't believe that this schedule strength thing is really a thing because again, if you go through the Dolphins' early season schedule. They played a lot of teams that have better records.
All right, guys. So sorry about that. It looks like Ethan's connection has gone somewhere. Oh, look, he's back. Maybe his Wi-Fi back turned on. Alf, you were perfectly fine. It was Ethan's connection once again. It was just
okay.
Of sorts. There he is.
It was just me blaming other people. It was just me blaming other people again for my own fault. So I apologize for that. Give me that answer again, Alfredo, for those who didn't hear it.
Yeah, I think none of the ones in the winning streak count because they're bad teams, and the Ravens are a bad team now. So retroactively, that one doesn't count either. And I think that the first one against New England, I believe it was Heather Dinich that had the revolutionary idea on ESPN that she politely asked the University of Miami to forfeit that game against Duke. I don't know if you remember that fiasco.
I do.
I think the Dolphins should really think about forfeiting that first game against New England because nobody ever fumbles in the NFL at the 20-yard line.
No,
you know what I mean?
No,
that never happened.
No. I'm with you, and obviously last night they definitely shouldn't even have shown up because I mean the Saints missing that many players, the fact that the Dolphins did not have Jalen Waddle or Javon Holland, their 2 top rookies and arguably the best player on their offense and defense this year. The previous week, completely irrelevant, right? Because because the Saints sideline, I'm sorry, that's a Freudian slip. The ESPN sideline reporter last night, I didn't even mean to do that. The ESPN sideline reporter last night basically was writing a book on Ian Book. I mean, she was talking to how many Saints quarterbacks were there before Breeze? Because I feel like she spoke to all of them about him. And I mean, that's a lot.
There was
of work
a Danny
in 24 hours.
Werfel. There was a Daniel
Yes.
Whirlpool reference, and I don't think I needed
Brilliant guy, backwards helmet. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, right. We got that. She literally did not say a word about the Dolphins until like 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It makes me wonder if the media relations did not give her access to the Dolphins. And is there no story? I mean, the only thing she talked about was I found out last night that Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer are great friends. That was it. That was her report. That's what she did. That's what she collected the paycheck for. The ESPN sideline reporter, and also Brian Griese. I covered Brian Griese's time in Miami. Brian was not happy that he couldn't beat out Jay Fiedler. If you remember, Brian had that one game, I think it was 29-28 against New England. There was a night game in the orange and the creamsicle jerseys. Remember that?
No, that was A.J. Feely.
Well, that was him. Didn't Brian have a game? I know he had a game in the creamsicle jerseys that went well. You're right. It was Feely.
Brian Griese also did wear the orange jerseys and got benched against the Washington football team.
I'm sorry. That's right.
In favor of Jay Fiedler when they were down 2 touchdowns.
That's right.
And if you remember, they won that game when they ran it on 4th and 1 with Ricky, and he broke a 30-yard touchdown run to basically win it by a touchdown at the end of the game.
That's what it was.
And that was the last we ever saw of Brian Griese. But he did open that game up with like an 80-yard touchdown to James McKnight.
That I remember, because I'm pretty friendly with J-Max, so I remember that one specifically. But I didn't remember the exact service. I just remember he didn't like the fact that he couldn't beat Jay out. Yeah. I guess he was holding it for 18 years because last night that was that. I mean, we know that Louis Riddick takes an interest in the Dolphins because I feel like he's always wanted the GM job, which you know, I know that's been Omar's like cause for the last 5 years, and I like Louis Riddick. Actually, I think he does really.
He's really smart, and he knows what he's talking about. But last night he said something that made me cringe. Look, I don't mind if you watch the team and you think they stink. You know, okay, they stink. You know, if you watch the team. But he said early in the first quarter when Tua got hit from behind and he fumbled that Tua has always had problems with
ball security. I heard that
in the NFL.
Yeah.
Do you want to take a guess? Who has the fewest fumbles in the NFL the last 2 years of all quarterbacks? And I'm talking backups too.
Tua.
Yes.
So let me ask you this, okay? Before we get to this, why have these narratives been allowed to persist? Because that's one of them, the ball security narrative. Now, the durability narrative, we've discussed ad nauseum, and there is credibility to that. Although I differ with it because my whole attitude about injury prone. Like Devontae Parker is injury prone because he hasn't taken care of his body consistently, according to those who are inside the organization. Although that changed the past couple of years, and he keeps re-injuring the same things, and there's soft tissue and muscle injuries. Like to me, that's injury prone. Okay, or if a guy doesn't recover quickly, like that, a guy like that's like Will Fuller may be injury prone, like maybe him. Okay, but like Tua, like I don't understand it, like. He suffered a catastrophic hip injury, okay? That was not a result of him being brittle, okay? It was a catastrophic hip injury. And he came back from it sooner than anybody anticipated and was ready to go. And people are saying he's injury. No, he's a quick healer. How do you be both? I don't and then the finger, like, okay, he's taking a handoff. We've already seen that their centers can't snap, all right? He hurts his finger. And he comes back. He wanted to play sooner than the coach put him in by 2 games. Like I don't like. So what is it like? Because we didn't hear this in 2008. All right, with Chad Pennington, I didn't hear the they haven't beaten anybody thing. But if you go back, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, Alfredo, you go back and you look at the second half of that season, and I know that I only remember this because I wrote about it. Okay, they were lucking out and playing second and third string quarterbacks the entire year. I didn't write it to discredit the streak at the time. I just said, look, okay, this is an opportunity for them. I gave them credit for taking advantage of the opportunity, which they did, and they got to 11-5. And then we saw what they really were in the postseason and the next year, especially when Chad got hurt and they turned it over to the other Chad. But I don't. Some of these narratives that are out there, I don't. Even the deep ball narrative with Tua, like he threw a beautiful ball at Mac Hollins yesterday. You know what? You know the one narrative that's correct. He makes 2 bonehead decisions a game. Okay, like that's the narrative that's correct. Like, can we focus on the ones that are true?
Yeah, Peyton Manning did a great video. It's out
Mhm.
there if you know. I'm not going to advocate exactly where to get it because technically
Yeah.
it's illegal because it belongs to ESPN Plus. But if you look on YouTube, you can probably find it. All right, and Peyton Manning breaks down Tua Tagovailoa, and lo and behold, Peyton Manning really likes him. So
Mhm.
is that a good thing? I don't know, but he says that his old quarterback coach used to tell him, never get bored taking a
Take
profit,
profit.
and
Right.
he thinks that Tua gets bored. And last night, that
Mhm.
throw over the middle just looked to me
Yeah.
like a YOLO throw. Like, I'm bored
Right.
of thinking and dunking. I see Mac Hollins down there in the middle of the field somewhere. I'm launching
Mhm.
it at him, and it's
Mhm.
an interception. Now he has to know, don't do that. You have an opponent that's not posing much of a threat. The way they become a threat is when you start giving them the ball and giving them extra possessions.
Yep.
So yeah, he has to clean those things up. Like that's just a fact.
But
And he also has this little
but is
fade.
that boredom, Alfredo, or is that? Do you think any of this is the narratives have seeped in with him? Because there is this perception that all he does is just find Waddle within 5 yards. Okay, so he had Waddle underneath on that play, and he goes up top to Hollins. It was a bad decision. I mean, nobody can. I'm not gonna. That's the thing. Like, I'm not too anon. Okay, like I I just think the guy's good enough to win with, and I think that Dolphin fans should be rooting for him, not against him. I don't know why that's too much to ask, but it seemed to me not just that he's bored, but that I do feel he says he doesn't hear it, but he has to hear it. I mean, even that the answer which they mentioned last night on the broadcast, I don't not feel wanted. I mean, that's I mean anybody who's been in a marriage or a relationship kind of knows the knows the passive aggressive nature of the double negative, right? Like I don't not feel wanted, so I just I felt like that throw was, you know what? Everybody thinks I always go to Waddle. Let's throw it up to the guy who's not as fast deep
Yeah.
downfield and try to force it in there. But I mean, he doesn't have like this whole idea like Tua turned the ball over. Like the numbers don't. I mean, even with some of the dumb decisions, like he doesn't have an inordinate amount of picks. So
No.
right?
No, he actually does take care of the football. The only thing that usually his interceptions just look really, really bad. But he has a couple of things he
Right.
has to fix. He has to fix that YOLO throw that it seems to seep in at least once a game. You can't have that against the Titans on the road this week. You just can't have it.
Right.
Okay, and you can't give a turnover to Belichick the last week of the season either.
Right.
So he has to clean that up. And then he also has this little fade. I don't know if you've seen it, but to start the game, like he anticipates contact and he starts fading away from the throw and is making the ball sail on him. And he missed Waddle, or what was it? No, it was Gaskin, wide open to start the game to get a first down on the first drive.
He also nearly killed Gaskin on an over the middle throw.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, to me, that's PTSD. Like, I mean, he is right. I mean, seriously, like if there's going to be a statue of this season outside of whatever we call that stadium now. Sorry, it's still Hard Rock. I'm confused because we've changed the names of all the others down here. But like, literally, the statue should be Jesse Davis picking Tua Tagovailoa up. Like that's like it happened again twice last night. He seems like a very nice man. He always extends his hand to the fallen.
Last night
after he's let somebody crush him.
Last night was it was a very important moment, I think, in the life of this build toward a championship team that they really feel like they're getting closer and closer. I think last night they got every answer that they can get because they've had a good little streak here of about 2.5 games where the offensive line has played well. Last night they were absolutely horrific. They were absolutely a disaster. Now I understand you're going against Marcus Davenport and Cameron Jordan, who's headed to the Hall of Fame. Okay, right. He has 100 sacks, and he's approaching Jason Taylor right now for his sack number for even in less years than Jason Taylor did it. So Cameron Jordan's an absolute stud, and Jesse Davis was trying to block him yesterday, and he never did. He never blocked him. And we just did our podcast, and Simon was like, "Look, I'm happy with the defense as is. Like this is a championship defense. Yes. Like this, can you see this defense winning a Super Bowl? Absolutely.
Yes.
But when you look at the rest of the team, it's kind of obvious, okay?
How many more wins would they have if Jesse Davis was not starting this year? 2, at least? It's got to be, right? Because he got Tua killed the first time, which cost them 4 games of Tua, essentially.
Yeah, so it's 2. Yeah, so give him 2 wins.
2 games.
Because Brissett was actually really, really, really bad.
I know, which is unfortunate because I kind of like him. Like, he seems like a good guy, but it's just, I mean, seriously, I mean, one of them, if you just Austin Jackson or Eichenberg has been up and down, obviously more down than up, but Austin Jackson, Eichenberg, and Jesse Davis, if you just removed one and replaced them with a competent veteran offensive lineman, they have 2 more wins, I think. I thought it was kind of unfair last night. There's another sign of not watching the team. Who was it that went on Michael Dieter last night? Because he had one mistake, and I was like, actually, he has not really been the problem this year at center.
Right,
I'm not saying he's
passable.
Great. He's okay, right?
Yeah.
Him and Hunt are like, I mean, Hunt is nobody really Hunt is fine, okay? I think we all agree about that. And Dieter's been okay, and then they've rotated in some other centers, obviously, when Dieter was hurt. It's been the other 3, okay? And and so I get the PTSD. I mean, I completely do. All right, anyway. All right, Alfredo, I got one more thing for Alfredo. Before we do, just want to mention before we go, got another great sponsor, the 5 Reasons Sports Network on the YouTube channel. Someone needs to tell 2 to slide. It's exactly true. Juan Pierre can give him lessons. EverythingTradeShows.com. EverythingTradeShows.com is where you want to go if your company is going back to trade shows. We know that they're back all over the place. Yes, there's COVID. Obviously, be careful out there. But that's not stopping anybody lately, particularly down here, okay? So, I mean, the convention centers are still having trade shows. Go to EverythingTradeShows.com, EverythingTradeShows.com. There's a phone number, 954-791-8882, 954-791-8882. They're based right here off of Las Olas. You mentioned 5 Reasons. They'll do a free booth rendering for you and show you exactly how it's going to look. So say hello to Chris and everybody else out there, but check out EverythingTradeShows.com. All right, let's get to it. You got 30 seconds on this. Which of these 2 games scares you more?
Tennessee.
No, hold on. Let me preface it. Tannehill going for some kind of revenge against his old team, but having been exposed somewhat of late. But Tennessee has something to play for. Or Belichick, who has had trouble beating the Dolphins late in the season before.
Oh, I think it's easily Tennessee. There's a scenario where even New England can clinch this week, and that game is rendered meaningless for them. So that would help Miami. But even if that game was all or nothing, and win or go home for both teams, I think Miami beats Mac Jones. Okay,
Right.
I just like Brian Flores sitting down, devising a game plan to defeat Mac Jones at home.
Yes.
I feel really good about that game against New England. Against Tennessee, it's different. It's on the road. That's a team that's getting a little healthier. You know, it's a better opponent. It's going to be a difficult challenge. I think if they're going to lose a game, that's the one. If they win that one, they're going to complete the gauntlet. They're going to go 10-7. Not
that he's been great this year, but the fact that Julio Jones may not be out there is helpful. Obviously, they got to handle A.J. Brown. But if there's one thing that this team can do, it's they can cover. We know that. They can cover, and lately they can rush. And you're right. This defense is a top. I think they're a top 5. I mean, they were a top 5 defense last year when he let them play, and obviously they got pushed to number 6 because what happened against Buffalo. But they were a top 5 defense the entire year. They're good. They're good. Like I mean, that is. And this is the other thing, Alfredo, as we go out the door. People always invalidate winning streaks led by defense. Always. Okay, that's not just the Miami thing. You have to look oppressive offensively and blow people out if people are going to give you credit for a win streak. I feel like that. And when it's Miami, it's worse. Okay, it's worse. All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and the sample is now 15 games. That's a pretty big sample. And I was shocked to even see this. But if you look at the defensive rankings, they're top 5 in every single ranking and number 1 in like a bunch of them, including sacks, pressures, and quarterback hits.
Well, give Flores credit. Give Josh Boyer credit. I don't know how much more involvement Flores has had with the defense lately because he won't say, but it seems like a lot, to be honest. It seems like
it's also the talent. If you look at the defense up and down, it is just stacked. It's it's the polar opposite of the offense. Like the offense, you look at the offense and what do you really like? You kind of like Tua, you like Waddle, you like Gesicki, you kind of like Devontae Parker when he's alive.
Where was he last night?
Yeah, and then the rest, you could give or take. You could replace them with just about anybody, right?
Yeah.
But
they literally have. They replaced Myles Gaskin with 2 guys off the street. One of them just runs like a tornado into the line, and the other one, I love Duke, but it might have been a 1-week thing.
But the defense is absolutely loaded. It's one player after the other, and
they're really good. Which is why
they're going to have to look. Emmanuel Ogbah's playing outside of his skin right now. They're going to have to pony up.
They should have paid him. Should have paid him already. I will say this. I don't know if it means that with the Noah pick that you can kind of excuse it because the defense is great anyway, or to say, why the hell did you take a cornerback in the first round when you already had what you had? Okay. And Nick Needham's really good. Like, and you found him on the street. Like, this is, I don't know. All right. Thanks, Alfredo. Follow him at alfartiaga.com. Go to Intense Nutrition. I'm starting today. All right. So check that out. That's in Coral Springs. Also, our friends over at Everything Trade Shows and prizepicks.com. Use code 5. I'll be back tomorrow at 9. Have a good day.